I watched Encanto, the newest Disney film, and my interest in watching it was what what it had to say or show about Colombian culture. From the moment I learned about the film, that it was in production, that it was announced, and I saw the title Encanto and the brief synopsis of like the story being set in Colombia, I thought, okay, so it's going to be a like a magical realist setting a la Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And I called it, it was exactly that. Once I realized that it was going to be that type of story, I hoped that the work that inspired the movie would be acknowledged, that the man himself would be acknowledged with maybe a direct reference or something in the credits. And all there was were the yellow butterflies at the beginning of the film and sprinkled throughout. This was important for me because I thought that people would know, be aware of where this story comes from, why a movie set in Colombia would be like fantastical, magical, like why? And so far I haven't seen many people mention that. They just accept it without wondering the context a story like this would come from. I thought that there would be a tacit acknowledgement from the public about what the source of inspiration is. Like in The Lion King, this story, most of the story beats are from Hamlet, and there are characters that parallel those of Hamlet, and very few people have noticed, and most of them are from Latin America anyway. This matters to me because when Disney does a movie set in a different country, you know, other than the United States, they choose a tale, a legend, a story that is representative of the culture of that country. Mulan was based on Mulan, Aladdin was based on the 1001 Nights, although it wasn't part of the original collection until Antoine Galland added it. Hercules is based on Greek mythology in general, etc. So what work of fiction did the makers of Encanto choose to represent Colombia? It was, of course, 100 Years of Solitude. And this is what separates Encanto from movies like Hercules, Mulan, Aladdin, or Moana, that these stories came from myths or tales, legends that were foundational to their respective cultures and transformed, evolved, and went through many iterations. And this is just one book from one man. Magical realism is not a unified, easily identifiable tradition. It is strongly associated with Latin America because of the Latin boom when Marquez himself rose to prominence, but it is not exclusive to America, and it's so non-specific that it can be traced to periods that precede in the 20th century, for example. And in Colombia, he was mostly the only one writing in this style, in this setting, because more contemporary authors from Colombia, like Laura Restrepo, they do not write this sort of stuff. And even he himself wanted to move past Cien Años de Soledad to the point that his next book was very, very different. There were still some touches of magical realism here and there, but it had a different purpose. The novel influenced other novels that became very popular within that genre, that style, such as this one, which has a very similar ending, and Isabel Allende's first novel, The House of the Spirits, which is also about a family, about a house that sees several generations of one family. And Marquez was inspired by this one. He even named two characters from his novel after some that appear in this one. What I'm saying is that without this book, this movie would not exist. So the creators of Encanto decided to make a story set in Colombia, and to do that they modeled it after the most popular Colombian story there is. Funnily enough, the movie takes place in Colombia, like real, like the country, whereas this one takes place in Macondo, a fictional town. Although it is a, well, since the novel is a parable of Latin America and specifically Colombia, it is still close to Colombian reality, to Colombian history in a way that the movie is not. Is the story of the movie the same as the one in this book? No. But the setting absolutely is. The movie is about a large family in one house, and the entire story takes place in the house. And here the story is about 7 generations of one family living in one house, and most of the story also happens within the house or near the house. That's why originally the title was going to be The House, because of the powers granted to them by the charm in the house. The Madrigals, they have powers that they use to serve the townsfolk. Their magic is their responsibility. And the Buendias are not responsible for the rest of the town, but they are the founders of the town. And the Madrigal matriarch moves to make this house, and because she's escaping what seems to be a civil war, a conflict of a civil war like the ones that occurred in Colombia, and the civil wars represented by the conflict between the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party are a key plot point in Cien Años de Soledad. And this is not hidden. The creators, the filmmakers, know that they take inspiration from this novel. What mattered to me was whether that was common knowledge, whether the public was aware, because if they are, this can create a curiosity and interest in other cultures. Everything that I know about the history of Colombia and about Colombian culture comes mostly from the works of Garcia Marquez and maybe from a few singer-songwriters from Colombia. And yet, that is the exact same thing that I saw in the movie. This is still the perception that we're left with, the lens of Garcia Marquez, of Macondo, of magical realism, when for Marquez and other authors, magical realism is a device for political commentary about the situations of Latin America. So that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to give some context that I felt was absent from a lot of people's experience with this movie. About the film itself, I liked it. I'm going to watch it again. I wanted to see it in English to see how the characters sounded and if they employed certain Spanish words, I don't know, to see how the cast, did. The story is whatever, the conflict is very easily solvable, but it is enjoyable. The songs are fun. In fact, one of them really reminded me of Eres secreto de amor, secreto. Eres secreto de amor. The most Colombian thing about the movie is the Carlos Vives song. And I really appreciate that this, alongside Coco, like these movies can offer a perspective on Latin American families and their dynamics, as opposed to American families and their dynamics. That is what I wanted to say. Thanks for watching this video. I still have a few videos, a few unscripted videos on unpopular opinions, so be on the watch for that. I will prepare other more scripted videos in the future. So until then, goodbye.